Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Super Duper Homebrew Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Cleaning a HERMS setup, blending beers, how long should I wait to serve after forced carbonating, and do I have to clean my conical fermenter between every batch? This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 234. Maybe it'll switch. There we go. Hello and welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com, click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Steuben. Today, I'm joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Chief Keg Washer of Keg Connection. Yeah, that's your camera. Mr. Todd Burns. Gentlemen, thank you. This is it's week after week. We do different setups. It's like a traveling road show now.
Yeah, you never know.
It is.
You never know. I appreciate y'all's time.
Yeah, and we're brewing.
Behind us. Oh, and I can actually switch to the brew cam. Y'all can't see it, but I could see it.
Yeah.
Right now.
Clear ward.
And this is not this. Are we sparging right now?
We're doing the mash out.
Mash out is what.
Yep.
Yeah. It's such a cool system, and it was. Let me go back to that shot.
Yeah.
Clear wort.
Yeah.
Whoa. This is my good segue to say the brow tag is officially for sale.
It's listed on the sites, and we're excited.
I better start pronouncing it right if we want people buying it.
We forgot to. We're going to have Stefan come on the show. Maybe next week we'll see if we can get him to come on the show and help us.
Yeah. I still think we need to get CM to say it.
We do.
Yeah.
We need also to get Horst on. We have a slew
of... we have lots of people that can tell us how to say it.
A slew of Germans in our arsenal that we can...
That would be cool. Opening commercial, just all
of them
saying
Germans just saying...
And then we just go, there you go.
Yeah, we're not even going to try to pronounce it. It's the brawl. See, I almost... Someone on Instagram messaged me and said, like, you almost roll the R like Brautag. But I was like, bro, I'm half Mexican. I don't think they do that in German. But I mean, I didn't learn German ever, but I don't know about the rolling R's. But he was like,
it's pronounced Brautag.
Yeah, it's Brautag. Listen, I've been in Comanche for a day and a half. It's pronounced Brautag.
Yeah.
We understand that. We actually have a question on the system that someone submitted. I felt obliged to take that. We have we have 4 questions for this week. We also have a little bit of small talk to start off. First off, the Trub Club recipe kits for this month are the True to Style Kolsch or the True to Style Weissbier. I think both are excellent choices. Weissbier is not really my thing, so I would push people towards the Kolsch. But what's new? I would always...
So you always talk about how it's like a 50-50 mix. You're like, how can it always be a 50-50? I'm going to predict this time that it's 75-25 for Kolsch.
Yeah. Well, you know, I almost planned it that way to be
90-10.
Yeah, 90-10. we have,
but there are people that love Weissbier. My wife loves Weissbier, so
yeah. And I had someone reach out. They were concerned about the lagering, like they didn't have the ability on lagering on the Kolsch.
Yeah.
And I was like, I could see that as an issue. You know, really though, Kolsch you could turn around quick if clarity wasn't a priority.
And you don't. I mean, the colder temperatures create a more neutral yeast profile, but If you don't have the ability, you still make a darn good beer at room temp.
Exactly.
Kolsch. That's the way I used to brew them for years.
And, I said this to Joe last week. Y'all don't have headphones on, thank God. The Imperial Yeast ad needs updating because it still calls it the Super Duper Homebrew Club. and that's not the name of it.
What's that?
Exactly. We don't talk about that. You might as well say Voldemort around here. Todd is legitimately upset when I try to call it the Super Duper Homebrew Club still.
You just said it again.
I'm not trying to just say Super Duper Homebrew Club for the sake of it. It's in context. But anyway, if you go to homebrewhappyhour.com/club, you can find out more details about what we're doing, how you can support us, and join our community. Right now, it's still only through Patreon at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. When you join at the recipe receiving tiers, you can also get other swag. Like we have those Kolsch Cup shirts that we've been sending out to new guys. We have the Homebrew Happy Hour beer sign. We still have a lot of those. I found some more tote bags up top in our trade show stuff. I was going through it for HomebrewCon next week, even though we're going to be virtual again. Heartbreak. But I went up there. I found like a dozen of the tote bags. I was like, hey, because there are two things people were asking me about when I told them they're out of stock. They're like, when are you getting more tote bags and when are you getting more CM Becker hats? Like people want both of those. Yeah. Where I was like, oh, okay, man. Okay, I hear
I have a stash. I have half a box left stashed away, but.
Yeah, no, we're saving those, though, for your vendors. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's why I know where your stash is. I've never gone into it because that's for you. CM Becker bought those hats and donated them to Homebrew Happy Hour.
Yeah.
And gave us an allotment. I didn't go over
we're going to have another hat made.
We are.
It may not be... it may be a different hat this time.
Yeah, can we talk about it? Because I'm excited.
A brow tag?
Yeah, those are going to look good.
Yeah. They are going to be cool.
Is our guy, he's sourcing them? Has anyone followed up with him? Was that my job?
I haven't heard from him, no. But we can call him later today.
We need to email the marketing guy.
Yeah, marketing. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what is our club called now? Because
the Club.
Okay. I just want to make sure you said that again.
I've said it at the top. I said Trub Club something. Trub Club. I like the name. Someone did remind me, like, isn't the Trub like the crap that's left over? I was like,
is that what we are?
That's kind of right. That's kind of accurate. Yeah.
We are. Yeah.
Yeah. We're the crap that's left over.
Some people have called my opinions and contributions to this show Trub. So I thought that was a compliment. They're like, yeah, your opinions are like a whirlpool Trub. It's like, thank you, sir. Anyways, we also have HomebrewCon passes to give away. We've already given away one that we did exclusively to Trub Club members. Ernest was the winner. Congratulations. And next Monday, as in a few days from now, is that the 14th maybe? We are giving away 4. You can go on our website. In the show notes here, click on the banner for HomebrewCon ticket giveaway, or go to the homepage of homebrewhappyhour.com. There's a banner there as well, and the right sidebar that says Homebrew Club or HomebrewCon ticket giveaway, and you can do that there. It'll take you. All we're doing is collecting your email, so that we can tell you if you've won. Todd, Joe and I were talking about last week, our email newsletter list is probably one of the least utilized email newsletter lists. Like, we send one a week on a good week, so you don't have to worry about us spamming you. Yeah. It's the Homebrew Happy Hour newsletter. I'm not selling it to anybody yet. We're not. The highest bidder hasn't come around, so
that's right.
Our information your information is safe with us.
When the guy offers $1 million for it,
absolutely,
we're going to throw you all under the bus.
We're going to throw you all under.
But I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, we talked about last time. Like, man, is there? I think I said something like, "Is there a price that you would like sell out?" And he immediately goes, "Yes."
He thought about it.
He didn't even blink. He was like, "Yes." Oh, that's good to know.
I get 100 junk emails in my personal email. How do you
Every
stop
day.
that?
I know.
I mean, is it just close the email account down?
I report them to spam and put filters in every time.
That's all I do too. Report to spam.
And by the way, the most important thing right now is you brewing beer. Mm-hmm. So if you need to get up and do something, don't hesitate.
Yeah, I was going to say that it is.
Look how fast it hit. We're almost.
Goodness.
Yeah.
So okay, let's do that real quick before we get into the listener feedback part and then the questions. This is your 7th brew day on the Brow Talk.
Oh gosh, I brewed.
I mean, on the final version, not of all.
On the final version, I brewed 2 of the American Pills that I'm worked on are American Light Lager. And then Joe brewed a batch, and then I brewed 1, 2. This will be my 3rd, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 batches.
What is obviously your little bias, but you only are biased because this is a system you've really helped develop.
Yeah, we've been working on this for
2
or 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah. I didn't pluralize it.
What we were looking at is something that was easy to use controller-wise, that you didn't have to basically program every time you went to brew. You just spin a knob or push a button. And I think we've been able to do that. I mean, it's a little more compact than what you see in most controllers, but we like that. It doesn't take up as much space. And it seems to be I was over my target efficiency yesterday. So
yeah, and I'd like to take credit for the reason it's simpler now. I kept looking at James. I kept looking at James and saying, too hard. And he made it simpler.
Well, when we started off, I'd really envisioned a touch screen that had Wi-Fi connected to your phone. Clay is real good at making apps. And then I sat down and Todd and I were talking about it, and I thought, too many moving parts.
Yeah, it gets people try to make things so complicated now. It's the way this works. You can make it as complicated as you want because it's got controllers on it that are programmable. But the way we have it set up, it makes it so fast and easy to use. So I'm really excited about it. I'm ready to brew on it again. I've been kind of under the weather, had a surgery, and I haven't been able to brew now for 3 or 4 weeks, and I am ready to brew again.
Yeah,
I can confirm though you're back to drinking.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I said I'm trying to heal.
Yeah, that's how we know nature is healing. Todd gave me a whiskey drink last night. I was like, hey.
And one more thing I'll say is that's a new controller, so we're testing it out on brewing a batch of beer. So when we do that, and we test it in other ways as well, but if we brew on it, I'll make a little note inside the cabinet door, put the date, what we brewed, and initial it, just so, hey, the controller's been working. They brewed a batch of beer on it. It's doing real good. I had to do a little temperature correction, nothing major. You may find yourself needing to do that every time you do a batch of beer, but this thing is super easy to calibrate. So
yeah, I was just saying. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna. It's really neat that every controller you've built so far, you've actually brewed a batch of beer.
Yeah.
One batch of beer with that controller, take it down. Everything's calibrated. You know it's working right. So when the customer gets it, we know that is ready to go.
Yeah. All they have to do is just hang it on the wall, connect the hoses, and
Well, I think that's the selling point we're trying to push on people that are interested in a HERMS setup is the R&D that went into it, but mainly the support that we're able to offer.
Yeah.
It is literally us supporting this product. This isn't a big company.
No. And this is
like when they email you, they're getting you, or when they call the phone, they're getting you. Actually, all lines now. You've been answering every phone. I'll call Ketchnech, and all of a sudden, Ketchnech and James Carlson. I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah, normally we want you to all call Josh.
Yeah.
So,
You do give my number out. I've been getting direct calls.
Oh, yeah, I give it out always.
But we don't have a huge production facility, and we don't have these things cranking out or have another manufacturer doing we're literally putting them all together by hand here.
Yeah. It is impressive. We need to do more. We caught a lot of B-roll video of the brewing today, and I'd love to show the whole process to really reiterate like the craftsmanship behind this system, because like you're over there passivating these kettles so that then you can overlay the graduation marks on the inside and the logo on the outside.
We put the logos on the kettles, the graduations.
You're over there wiring the controller.
Yeah, I'm building all the controllers by hand. So it's a labor of love. We didn't get into this to make a ton of money.
That's historically been my problem with my ideas in the company. I'm great ideas at making money though. Yeah, we're gonna call you Sweatshop James from now on. I like
Todd's been right there every step of the way.
Sweatshop Todd. That actually rolls off the tongue. But anyway, so Browtech, Brew Day. I'll switch to that camera again. It is looking good over there. All right, so we do have a little bit of listener feedback from our buddy Dan. I'd be remiss if I didn't go. Oh no, The listener feedback bumper didn't work. Oh, it's time for listener feedback. There, y'all got the bumper. Dan wrote in. He said, watching episode 233, and I've been making grapefruit IPA for years. But 2 years ago, Drew Beecham told me to use grapefruit peel and vodka to make a tincture to dump into a keg with the beer. As soon as I did that, I had the best grapefruit IPA ever. I let it sit a few days to extract the most flavor and aroma before I add it to the keg. Last week, we had a show where people were asking if the grapefruit IPA that you brewed that we've been just raving about,
right.
He had the kit and he was like, does Todd use any external flavoring or is it all from the ingredients? And correct me if I'm wrong, Joe and I both agreed, no, it's just the recipe.
You're wrong.
Oh, you did add grapefruit.
Yeah.
We didn't know that. Okay.
Joe told me how to do it because I wasn't absolutely sure. Yeah. So I peeled the grapefruit, but only the outer part, not the white part.
Yeah.
So I peeled all that grapefruit. I put it on a tray and I dried it. And then I did it when I did the dry hopping.
I was last week. You should have heard my confidence. I was like, no, the Citra and Mosaic makes a very convincing. It makes a very convincing grapefruit. I thought, but the hops do bring out grapefruit.
They do,
but not as strong as you were going for. Because yours isn't punch you in the face grapefruit. Your recipe.
It's got a lot of grapefruit. I mean, it has a lot of grapefruit. So when I first poured a glass, I took it over to the house and handed it to my wife, and I said, smell this, and what do you smell? And she had no idea what I was doing, right?
Yeah.
And she goes, it smells like grapefruit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Because my wife loves grapefruit. So
the keg we have at my house, my dad and I still have a keg of it, like a third of it and a third of the low tide. We've been blending as well. We have a question about that later. The keg we have, maybe it mellowed a little or something because the grapefruit is not.
Oh, it's definitely mellow. I mean, mine's mellowed too. I mean, you start to lose. I don't know if you've got it in a closed keg, but you are adding CO2. But you definitely start to lose some stuff, and that's keg's been in there quite a while because it's pretty strong beer, and I had 3 kegs of it. So I gave one to somebody.
Me.
You.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and then I had 10 gallons of it. Yeah.
Yeah. We still have a little bit left. The low tide at his barn is totally gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
At his brother's crew was up there recently. I suspect they drank the rest of it.
No, I don't think so.
It was you. It wasn't me.
I mixed all mine with mine, and mine was about the same. So yeah, somebody drank it. I mean, I've had a lot of people come. I've had people there all the time. So
I know.
Probably my dad.
It was. Let's blame Pierce. It was your dad.
It was Dad.
Anyways, we do have 4 questions for this week's show. Let me start it off with the first one from our buddy Stephen B., who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Stephen wrote, "Cheers, HHH from South Carolina. I'm a longtime fan of the pod. I've grown as a brewer, and I thank you guys for helping me out so much over the years. I'm interested in your new HERMS. I currently brew 5-gallon batches on a mash and boil, and one of the things I enjoy most is how easy it is to use and clean my all-in-one. Can you talk about the specifics of how easy or not easy your new HERMS is to use and clean?" I think he knew I was going to take his question. If you talk about the system, anytime we have a topic of the month or whatever, and people they learn, they're smarter than I am. They're like, "Oh, Josh is talking about Kolsch again. Let me ask a Kolsch question." Good question, Stephen. I'll start it off because I had a brew day of my own on the system.
Yeah, you've brewed on it.
Yeah,
I've seen you,
and I did clean. You made me clean.
Yes,
afterward. It wasn't an option. I had to do the cleaning myself. It was a lot easier than I thought it would be in regards to the cleaning specifically. The brewing was way easier than I thought it'd be. The brewing, automated is not the right word because it's not a set and forget kind of thing, but it's nice having such fail safes in place, such as like the immersion coil for, or on the element rather, where I can't scorch the grains.
Right.
That's a lifesaver for people who are clumsy or lazy
and the consistency when you start seeing all 3 gauges say 152, that's pretty cool.
And the controller is what I would argue is what makes it so easy.
Yeah.
Is because it's very straightforward. Everything's labeled appropriately. When you're turning on which element, it's very clear. It's very clear which pump you're turning on, or both pumps.
Yeah.
It's very clear. The probes, where they go, it's very clear. Everything is very straightforward. I was one of those up until like the age of 9. You had the toy where it had a circle and a star and a square, and you got the shapes and you had to put it in the right one.
Yep.
I played with that till the 5th grade. And as someone who did that, the system gets my seal of approval. It's very straightforward. I'll let you, now y'all are the designers behind it, so I'll let y'all elaborate more of whatever I missed on what makes, like, how would you argue?
Well, the cleaning part of it, what's your process?
What I usually do is once I finish with the sparge and start the boil, I'll take the mash, dump the grains into a bucket, and
which I feed to my chickens.
They love it too.
And then I'll take it outside and scrub it and wash it down with a water hose. Bring it back in. When the boil's done, then you only have one pot left. HLT, I'll use the hot water to circulate through the HERMS coil.
Yep.
And also, you can connect these hoses in a series. So you can connect these pumps, I guess you would say parallel.
Yeah.
Or no, it would be in a series, not parallel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you hook these in a series and have them come out, and then you can clean the wort pump. The wort pump, one or two things you can do. You can take the head off. It's stainless steel. You can clean it that way, or you can just run hot HLT water through it. And that's what I do. Because there's nothing worse than losing a gasket or a screw trying to take something apart. But it's perfectly safe to run clean.
Yeah, we do CIP, clean in place. Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I was say in the instructions, I think you specifically refer to the clean in place as being a benefit, right?
I don't remember.
Okay,
that's a great question.
Okay.
I just don't remember.
I don't remember either. But if you don't mention it textually, you've mentioned it to me verbally about one of your selling points of the system.
Yeah.
As being the ease of cleaning.
Yeah, and I think we should, full disclosure, I'll talk about the hardest thing to clean. How about that?
There we go. Perfect.
The hardest thing to clean is the burner in the boil kettle, because it tends to get build up on it and stuff on it. So what I do is I take it outside, I put very hot water in it with Brew Clean, and I'll do maybe 3 tablespoons of Brew Clean, and I just fill it up barely past the coil. And then I'll just let it soak. I'll clean everything else, come back to that last with a little, I don't want to say a Brillo pad, although you probably could use one. It's a stainless steel sponge, but you can also use a Scotch-Brite sponge.
Right.
And once you've let it soak for a little bit in the Brew Clean, everything just comes clean very quickly. Well, I kind of keep mine separated apart so I can get it. I just go through each piece. That probably takes 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah, the burner and the cleaning the false bottom.
Yeah. And then when I'm done with that, I used to fill it all the way to the top and let it soak. I don't even do that anymore because that's so strong. I just take it and kind of get the liquid up with the sponge all the way around the sides, rinse it off, and it's ready to go.
Yep.
I think people should realize too, because especially like Steven, had to look at his name. Sorry, Steven. Even a mash and boil or grain father, any of those all-in-ones, there's still cleaning involved at the, like every system you're using.
Yeah.
There is cleaning is unfortunately not avoidable. I think if we could create a system that left no residue or had some automatic suction thing that just took it all out, we'd be gazillionaires. Because that's my least favorite part of a brew day, especially because on a normal brew day, like at the barn, I'm 4 or 5 beers in by the time it's to clean. I don't want to clean. I want to sleep. I want to eat.
To be fair, though, you don't ever want to clean. So.
Okay, good point. Even when I'm 0 beers in, I don't want to clean. I want to sleep.
Right.
Well, it's the other thing too is you're brewing a lot more beer, so you're getting I would argue that you're getting a lot more beer than if you brewed a 5-gallon batch and cleaned up. Maybe you clean a little bit more than you would on a 5-gallon batch. I don't know. Those all-in-ones, you got to scrub everything. I mean, it takes quite a while to clean them. So.
I will also, speaking to his other part of his question before we move on about the ease of use.
I thought you talked about that first.
No, but I mean, to wrap that part up, I would say if you can operate the controller on an all-in-one, it's gonna be pretty intuitive to operate this controller.
Because that's all, like in the mash and boil, you're pushing a button to change a temp. And that's here. You've got the mash, the one in the middle. I know I'm acting like y'all can see it. But
I'll put B-roll in right
The
now.
mash controller in the middle, it's just giving you temperatures.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to do. You can actually adjust that. You can calibrate that to the thermometer, the sensor. Mm-hmm. But the HERMS controller, you've got a knob. You just spin the knob and push it in. Now with the boil controller, you just spin the knob. You don't even
you don't push it in. Yeah.
And what it is its percentage of power to the element. So usually what I do is I'll go 100% until it hits about 180, 190 degrees. Then I'll back it off to between 75 and 80 and then just watch it.
Yeah, just watch. Make sure you don't get a boil over. You don't want to do it at 100% all the way up or you're going to get a boil over. But that's true with anything, you know.
Sure.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. I feel like if you've brewed on an all-in-one, you're going to feel comfortable is what I was getting at with brewing on a HERMS. Like I think it's almost that same kind of veil that people have from extract to all grain, from an all-in-one to a 3-vessel HERMS, where once you do it, you're like, oh, that was nothing. Yeah. Like, you know, when my pop and I started going from extract to all grain, there was a big hurdle to us of being like, I don't know, man, that's a lot more pressure. But then one brew day later we did a cooler brew day. And after that, we're like, oh, this is nothing.
Right.
It's just more control, extra steps. Sure. But more control. It was worth the exchange. But
plus you can do 15 gallons of beer.
That's the biggest part of it. Yeah.
I mean, if 5 gallons is good, 15 gallons is even better.
And a lot of times I'll do 17 and a half, so I get 3 full kegs when I'm done. So
which I have started appreciating now that I've kind of worked my way into the beer trade with you all.
Yeah,
I like that. I'm getting a keg of the one I brewed. I'm taking one home.
Oh, cool.
And then he has a keg of it.
Yeah,
you haven't gotten it yet, though, right? It's still up there.
Yeah, I mean, behind Josh, we have a conical that's ready to go. So, and then there's another one here with a conical.
And these are all the same beer recipe with 7 different hops. And that is going to be maybe not even a podcast episode, but actually a separate.
Its own thing, a standalone.
A standalone that we're going to do where we're going to take these 7 new hops that were recently released. And we're going to actually sample each beer, which, again, is all the same recipe with just the hops. Now, we did use a different hop for the bittering hop. We used Magnum.
Right.
But for the flavor and the aroma, we used the other beer, the other hop. We got to...
Watch the camera cable. Yeah, you're good.
It's not on the system. Oh, it's one of those lights.
I was going to say let's
the battery went out.
You didn't turn it off. You always do that. You always ask, how is the battery already dead?
Pull it out.
Yeah, that'd be great.
The battery's already dead.
Well, if you would, just pull it out and throw it as hard as you can at Josh's head.
No, bring it over here so people believe us that what it was. People are going to be like,
I'll do it.
Was that the system? No. Every time on those nice new lights, I'm like, did you turn it off?
Is that other one going to do it?
No, I turned that one off.
Okay.
I turned that one off.
Well, why didn't you turn this one off?
I thought you did. You had that. I thought
you did.
Oh, you lie.
Turn the other one off.
Oh, you lie. Anyway, I think that about wraps up Steven's question.
Yep.
And as always, though, if you have more questions or if you need more information, you can go to brautag.com, BRAUTAG. It is fully operating. It's being worked on every day, but the gist of what you need to know is on there right now. In kegconnection.com, you can actually look through the listing for Brautag now. It's pretty exciting. Oh, which we should talk about the introductory promo real quick, and then I'll get done with this infomercial. We are doing is $500 off. Of the list price, so it's $44.95.
Yep.
It comes with a 15-gallon recipe kit of your choice, Todd. I told Todd,
that's pretty cool.
I told Todd, let's pick like 5 or 6 across the board, and Todd goes, let's just let them pick. I was like, Todd, that's kind of dangerous. Some of these are kind of expensive, and he was like, we'll just let them pick. They can brew whatever they want on their first batch. And we got Imperial to not donate. We worked out a deal with them. They're giving the 3 packs of yeast.
It was donated.
Okay. It was, yeah. Well, I mean, part of a sponsorship package. So they're sponsoring now the Brautag yeast for your 15-gallon recipe kit.
Yeah.
Whatever pack you want to. Todd was like, well, how are they going to know what to pick? If you get like a Kolsch and you put their sour patch yeast in there, Joe from Homebrew Supply might call you to go, I don't know if you know this, but that yeast probably won't be the best with that Kolsch. But if that's what you want, hey, man, who are we to judge? So, yeah, 3 packs of Imperial yeast. You're going to get, when they come in, which is soon, the Brautad beer sign. Those are coming in. We also have a refractometer, a premium refractometer with the hard case. Yep. We had the premium pH meter. James was insistent on that one making it in with the pipette, and then it is a hard case as well. Yeah, it's in a hard case, and you actually insert it into the wort, or the water, I would say, and it'll give you an instant reading. So it's pretty cool. It's very exciting. All that information's at the listing.
What else? What else do they get? I'm seeing if you remember everything.
Did I not say everything already? The recipe, the yeast, the refractometer, the
Brew Clean.
Oh, a pound of Brew Clean. And a 16-ounce Star Sand.
Star Sand sanitizer.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not Star Sand, Sand Step.
Sand Step. Damn it. We're going to get in trouble now. So, Sand Step. And let me think. What else?
The Brew Clean is what you were very insistent on that.
Yeah.
Because
I use it to clean. Always use it to clean my system. It works so well.
Yeah, go ahead and hold it up. That's the
refractometer.
That's the refractometer in its hard case.
And then
the pH meter and the strips. It's super nice.
Yeah.
It's super nice. And I like this. All of that stuff's at the product listing on catconnection.com.
Yeah, it's like $300 plus $350 depending on what value. So
yeah. Todd made me put the words up to $350 value because you wanted to cover our bases. Because if they picked the most expensive recipe, they would be saving that much.
Well, actually, it'd be a little more with the most expensive one. It'd be more than $350. Yeah,
it would be. And that's not including again the $500 off. When the introductory promo is done, it'll go back to $49.95, which is we've been doing our homework and development stuff. We're very happy with where we ended up with pricing and everything else.
Yeah, because of what you get in the package. I mean, there's just about everything you need to brew that beer.
Once you receive it,
those real expensive recipes, by the way, they're not very good. I would pick a less expensive one.
Like a cream ale.
And he also mentioned earlier in this that we wouldn't judge you if you use Sour Patch in a Kolsch recipe, but I can assure you we're going to judge you if you do that.
And then, I'm just saying, if they call me and like, Josh, I'm going to order the Brautad, they can do whatever. They put whatever yeast they want in there. Yeah. I don't care. I'll just be happy. I'm so excited about this system. But anyways, Stephen, thank you so much for submitting your question. This is a great time to remind you, if and when we take your question on a future episode, we do give you a $25 gift card out of Todd's bank account. Good for catconnection.com. So thanks, sir, for your generosity. Moving on to question number 2 came from our buddy Chris, who texted in at 325-305-6107. Chris wrote, Todd has talked about blending 2 beers on tap, and both are IPAs, I believe. Are there other instances where you blend, or can you suggest 2 styles that might blend well together? You dissed my session IPA for about 2 weeks.
Yep.
Then you were like, oh, it's not that bad. And then you were like, I mixed it with my grapefruit, and it's now the best IPA ever.
It was really good when I mixed it. The grapefruit was a little too strong.
Okay.
Not just hop wise, but it had a lot of body. It was really strong, and that one was too weak. And I'm like, man, if I mix them together, it makes a really good beer. So I hope Eric, my buddy Eric Savener, is not listening to this show, because I gave him hell for mixing beers for years. Well, he'd always come out with 2 beers and mix beers.
I remember on opening weekend, he mixed your Kolsch with your Yingling clone, and he was drinking that all night. And I was like, Eric, but maybe he was onto something.
He's weird. You know, come on, let's admit it. No, but I kind of gave him a hard time about that. But I have mixed beer. Well, you mentioned it before, the Black and Tan. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the first mixed beer I ever had was when I probably wasn't even old enough to drink at Maggie Mae's in 1980 something.
Watching music on the top level?
Yeah, no, down below in the bar area. Okay. I'd go in and get a Black and Tan, you know.
No.
So.
I'll say Black and Tan has been around before I've been alive.
Yeah, that's a Guinness with an amber ale?
It's a Guinness with one of their other beers. What is the other... Is it bad?
I don't know. Don't ask me.
I would think like a Guinness and
other,
a flat tire.
Well, Black and Tan normally was a Guinness stout with one of the other beers from their brewery in Ireland. It was that lighter beer that they have. I could find it.
Yeah.
I don't know off the top. I can't remember the name of it.
This says a Black and Tan is a beer cocktail layering a pale beer with a dark beer.
Yeah.
Doesn't say specific. So it just says any pale.
I could look
any
for
pale ale or lager with any stout or porter is what they say technically is a black. But yeah, I mean Guinness has historically been what everyone used.
I figured
right?
that was the black part of that Black and Tan was the Guinness.
Yeah, you know what? Even the first pop-up thing that says what was the original Black and Tan, it says bartenders would just layer a dark beer, a stout, on top of a light beer, a lager.
On top of a light beer.
That's what it says.
So they would put
a Bass ale.
Bass. That's what I was trying to say. Bass.
A Bass ale.
I can't even remember the last time I saw that on the shelves.
You know, well, is it still? I mean, this is UK beer. Is it still only UK?
I don't know. The one in Maggie Mae's, they always use one of the other. And other places I've been, I can't. Is it Bass? That's not brewed by Guinness?
Oh, maybe it is. Maybe they own them now. I don't know.
No. I mean, they've always.
Oh, I thought Bass was their own brewery.
They always Guinness. That's not even the name of the brewery. Whatever the name of the brewery is, they brew like. Well, they brew a lot more beers now, but traditionally they brewed like 4 beers.
Okay. Well, this thing says it was a Guinness and a Bass.
Okay.
So we have to try that. I like Guinness. Guinness is basically a health drink, I've come to learn.
Yeah, and people probably don't realize how low alcohol Guinness is.
Yeah. It's very. Anyway, Todd, you put your glasses on. You mean business.
Yeah.
I will tell you that it worked out for Todd so well, I believe, because they were the same style.
Yeah.
Right? And they were just a variant of it. If you're blending, that might be where you want to start. I can't imagine blending like a wheat beer with a Guinness would go over well. Like if you got that Weiss beer and then poured a stout on top of it, you probably aren't going to have a good time.
Or a sour beer with a light lager.
Right. Well, and again, though, but ultimately, as happens.
I mean, you might want to do that to tone the sourness down. I just can't imagine mixing a sour with.
And you know, and this is all goes back to like a lot of our questions or answers rather is so subjective. There are people in our audience who legitimately like tastes that we don't. Sour beers. There are people out there who like that. They might like a blend that I'm not going to like. I remember at a homebrew con. Oh, it was the one we didn't show in Baltimore. Do you remember that? Where we just walked it.
Yeah.
And it was the first homebrew con you went to with us. Mm-hmm. And the guy from Love to Brew, who doesn't own it anymore, and I'm not even sure if they're around, he was a grappler. I'd known him, and now I can't remember his name. He always wore the funny suits on club nights. Remember their...
Oh, yeah. That guy was hilarious.
He was hilarious, but their booth that year was all about blending. And I remember them... like giving you recommended blends, and then they're like, "Oh, but do you want to try something?" And I remember just off the cuff, like handing us it was like a blueberry something with an IPA, and he was like, "Oh, you're gonna like this one," and it was terrible. But my point being, there were people who genuinely liked it. So, Todd, would you agree that blending should start with the flavors you like, and probably within the same style? Or you just say go for it? Doesn't matter.
You know, that like a Black and Tan. And by the way, the name of that brewery, which I read a whole book about it. I can't believe I could not remember it off the top of my head. St. James Gate Brewery.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, no, I think like a Black and Tan, totally different styles, and you mix them together. So I mean, the only reason I mixed the 2 IPAs together, I wouldn't normally mix 2 IPAs. It's because, you know, yours was a little too light for me, and mine was a little too strong, and that seemed to work in that situation. You know, I think you could. That was brewing a beer out of necessity, or to get something that I wanted. But a lot of times you just blend them to try to. I mean, I blend them with cans sometimes and try to. Not very much.
Let's do it tonight.
We'll do it tonight.
Let's blend.
We're doing it tonight.
Let's blend 2 ridiculous beers that we would never think to blend.
All right.
We'll do that. I'll make an Instagram video for it.
I'm in.
Okay, deal. James, you want to come drink?
We're blending tonight. We're blenders tonight.
We're blending
James.
tonight. We're blending. I don't know if you know that about
I've got a yard about that tall.
We're going to be ridiculous about blending tonight. I can tell already.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Do you have any? You do have sour beers in there.
Probably.
You have a couple bottles, and you have a handful of Gozas, too.
Though I have 2 still from that brewery. We got to drink those, James. I'm not mixing those.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm not talking about those ones. You had some farmhouse.
You'd have seen us lugging all of that on the train,
from Belgium,
off the train, on the airport. It was
no. I'm not. I haven't touched that. Well, one, I don't think they're my style, but
I think you'd like.
Those are also very expensive, though, aren't they?
They were very.
I'm pretty sure we weren't supposed to drink it until you're there, so I'm not going to do that.
I think we've already talked about paying way too much for one night, but we didn't realize how much it was going to be.
The Russian guy told you get one, right?
Yeah, good one.
Anyway, Chris, thank you so much for submitting your question. Moving on to the third question of this week's show. It came from our buddy Jacob, who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Jacob wrote, I found your channel after looking up how to force carbonate in a keg. That's you, Todd. The video is helpful, yet I still don't fully understand if I need to wait a certain amount of time after forced carbonating, or is my beer ready to serve immediately after I rock and carb it? Any benefit to waiting a day after forced carbonating? Thank you for helping. I need to go back and watch the video because I haven't seen it in forever.
I haven't either. We may need to redo it.
Update it.
I think that's when I cut the time down. But one thing I've learned over the last few years is you got to be careful about doing it too long. I'm going to mention that first before we talk about the other. Because I force carbonated 2 beers this weekend that were part of the ones that, the ones that were working on the hops. And I did them both 2 minutes. One of them was fuller than the other one. One of them was perfectly carbonated. No, I'm sorry. Scratch that. It wasn't quite carbonated enough at 2 minutes. So I did it another 30 seconds at about 45 PSI. The other one I did 2 minutes and it was overcarbonated. So,
really?
right after another, the same temperature.
Yeah.
One just had more CO2. I don't want to say air because I don't have oxygen in there, but had more head space in the keg, so it was a little bit more vigorous, and I got it a little overcarbonated. Now it was barely overcarbonated. That's the reason I actually am able to serve at different pressures. So I took a lower pressure hose, hooked it up at 4 psi or 5 psi, and I'm going to serve it like that for half a gallon, and then it'll get to the point where it's fine. Yep. But anyway, I would say be careful there. As far as waiting, I taste it while I'm forced carbonating. So I'm always forced carbonating and tasting. Both of the beers that I put in there are not absolutely clear, and the reason for that is I took them out of the secondary. I probably could have left them another week, but I was ready to keg those babies, and it actually was probably clear when I tasted it immediately than it would be a day later, because all that stuff's going to settle down to the bottom. But once you pour half a beer and suck that stuff out, then it'll clear up again. So the advantage to waiting is everything settles down, and eventually you're going to have clear beer. But always keep in mind, if you wait a day or two, everything settled down and your dip tube's in the middle. So the first beer is probably not going to be clear. But no, I don't necessarily. If I keg a beer and it is carbonated and it is ready to drink, I am going to drink it that night.
You don't wait.
No, I'm gonna have some beer. I'm not going to wait a day.
Yeah. What is this waiting thing? I've learned from I think me and my dad do wait because we're usually not in a hurry. But also, full disclosure, correct me if I'm wrong, you use a beer gun, an event faucet, not a beer gun. Scratch that. Sorry, Blickman, don't sue me. We use a CM Becker event faucet to dial it in so that it's not just foam, and you can do a perfect pour to test the actual carbonation level.
I can actually force carbonate at 45 psi, put the event faucet on there, and turn it down and restrict it enough so that I can pour a beer at 45 psi, not have it be all foam, and then taste the actual carbonation level. And you do the same thing, James.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right. I was going to say, because that is probably for me the best selling point. We have event faucets at the house. I actually took it for serving my kombucha, but that's the best selling point I have for a event faucet is forced carbonating and testing in real time without it. Because like you said, you do that with a plastic Cobra tap, or you do that on your tower, and you're screwed. Like that you're not gonna be able to taste the actual carbonation, the carbonic acid level.
Not to mention the fact that you're going to lose a lot of CO2 in the process because you have to depressurize to taste and then pressure it up. So event faucet is really the way to go.
We're ready to go in the boil kettle, aren't we?
Well, I'm waiting for that lower to hit 168.
Okay.
Very close.
Dang, we're ready to start boiling. I'm excited.
Todd trying to get me through this show quick. Wrapping up Jacob's question, like Todd said, if it's carbonated, you can start drinking. Like if it's where it needs to be in carbonation levels and you can verify it's where you want it to be, there's no point in waiting. You can start drinking immediately.
And if you do ever over carbonate it, which eventually you will if you carbonate enough beers, a really good way to bring it down is what I was just talking to James, kind of sidebar there, is turn your CO2 down considerably, and then take CO2 out of it so that you're not still at 10 psi because you don't want it to backflow. So I would disconnect. It shouldn't backflow if your system's set up correctly, but just to be safe, I would take off your liquid, pull your CO2 out, put it at like 5, 6 psi, whatever you want, put it back on, serve the beer there for a few beers, and it'll start to lose carbonation, and then you'll be fine.
Yep. And I don't think we need to necessarily redo the video, but if we update the article, and I can add a tag to the video that says, hey, updated information, click here. And that way, because the video is good and it has a lot of views and the information is solid. Yeah. There's just, like you said, other things that you might want to add to it because the information is not bad. You're just like, oh, I need a little addendum on what we covered. I don't think.
Yeah, let's do that. That's a great idea.
So we'll update the article because there is a nice article at homebrewhappyhour.com.
James, again, don't hesitate to continue to brew. Nobody is going to throw stones at you for brewing. Yeah. We'll do the last question.
I was going to say, I got one last question for us. Came from our buddy Travis R., who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com, and he starts off, Joshua, I know how much you love Reddit. Yes, I do. I saw this post today, and it's actually a really good question that had lots of good responses, but I want to hear what you think. You means Todd and James, of course. If you use this on the podcast, I promise to share my gift card with the original poster. He's lying. I shouldn't have taken this question. All right. The post is, can I use a conical fermenter without cleaning between beers if the fermenter has been sealed? A few months ago, I received a spiked CF5 conical as a gift from my wife. It's definitely overkill for me, but I absolutely love it so far. This has led me to brewing more than ever before, which means that sometimes you're not even listening to me, Todd.
It is so clear.
Oh, wow.
I heard everything you said.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this
blah, blah.
This has led to me brewing more than ever before, which means that sometimes I want to transfer to a keg the same day that I want to add new wort to the fermenter. Given that the conical is airtight and the fact that I have a dump port on the bottom for trub and yeast, what I'm wondering is if it is necessary for me to clean the conical between every brew, especially if I'm using the same strain of yeast. My thinking is that if I pressure transfer the finished beer into a keg and don't open the conical until I'm ready to dump the cooled wort from my new batch in it, it should remain sterile. I guess that part 2 to this question would be, what if I'm using different strains of yeast? Given that I've dumped the original trub and yeast cake, how much likely would it be to have leftovers remaining in the conical? That is a long question. And really, Travis, it's not his question. He stole it from Reddit, which is brilliant, by the way. Golly, get your $25 gift card off a stolen question. But it is a good question. So I can speak only to what I know from you, James. Mm-hmm. You have used the same yeast cake.
Yeah,
because you were doing the exact same style, though.
Well, what I do is I would tell you, yes, you do, unless you're wanting to reuse yeast from a previous batch. So what I do is when I do a specific style, the one I've been working on here lately, I'll pitch the yeast, packets of yeast on the first batch, and then I set up time to keg for the next batch. So when I keg it, I have yeast left in the bottom. I pump right on top of that. It rouses the yeast. Mm-hmm. It goes to town. The problem with doing that is after a while, you build up so much yeast that you've got to dump some of it or wash it and reuse it. It's basically building yeast up like Imperial does. That's what they use fermentables to grow their yeast numbers.
Right.
And then they wash it, bag it, and sell it. And you can do that, and you save a lot of breweries do it too, because yeast is a considerable expense. But if you're not going to be using it that way, you can't always get everything out of the dump valve, especially with the conicals. What happens is the yeast compacts down, and you're going to have to push liquid through there to get all of that out. It's been my experience that you can't get nearly all of it out without removing all of the liquid and adding more liquid in. So I would say it's not worth spoiling a batch of beer. And I understand his point. It's considered sterile because it's never been touched. They've moved it with gas, but I would just clean it.
Yeah. It's hard too for me, especially being in the industry and around y'all so long, where sanitation and cleanliness is really instilled, right?
You can't skimp on it.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
And in this case, like you said, there's a technicality. Like if we were just doing the delicious true to style Kolsch, and that's all we ever brewed, you could keep getting as many generations as viable. Like you stopped at the fifth, I think.
Fifth, you could taste a difference in it.
But so you in that instance could keep putting on top, because that was your goal, was brewing the same thing.
Yeah, I wanted to see if it was first possible.
Yeah.
And how did it affect fermentation times and taste?
Yeah.
So second and third, I'd say the third batch was probably the best, and it fermented in 48 hours.
Yeah.
So we had more than enough numbers of yeast, and it came out fantastic. But then it started declining.
I understand where this is coming from too, from the person off of Reddit that Travis stole this from. Because as a man who, what's the nicer way to say lazy? Time efficient,
lazy,
resource efficient. Either way, you know what I'm trying to say. The L word.
Yeah.
As a man of efficiency, I would love to be able to streamline the process as much as possible, whether it be the brewing process, the fermentation process, the cleaning process. If his mindset's not wrong, it's just, I think it's very contextual, and it can be dangerous. Oh, let me switch to that other camera. Oh, no, James is too tall to be on the other camera. 1072.
Good.
I think, like,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'll just say, you thought I was done?
I thought you were done.
I'm done. Go ahead.
So I actually, when I do my secondary, I go from my primary to my secondary. And recently, when I brewed a bunch of beer, I was going into glass bottles. When I went to keg that, I'm so anal about it that if I'm transferring beer from the secondary to the keg or from the primary to the secondary, I actually clean my transfer hose and tube between each one, because my thought is always, what if one of these buckets had a contamination and one of these beers was contaminated? I don't want to contaminate all three.
All three. Yeah.
Even though it's from the same batch and I brewed it all together, I actually put it in sanitizer and clean it before I transfer each one.
Yeah, you're very clean when you brew. Your personal hygiene could improve.
Yeah, absolutely.
But your brewing hygiene's impeccable. It's very impressive.
It's one of the only. My wife's mentioned
not personal.
That's one of the not personal, but just generally, my desk is never clean, right?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
sign of genius.
Yeah, is it a sign of genius?
I hope so. That'd
okay,
be great.
I remember when your iPhone, like this was 5 or 6 years ago, you handed it to me for something, and you had 26,400 something emails that have not been read yet. Do you remember that?
I was going to get. They were all spam.
Yeah. You don't delete email. Do you still not delete emails, or do you finally delete them?
I keep them for about 5 years.
Why 5 years?
That's about how much my system will hold.
That's when Rackspace calls and says, "Hey, you need to get rid of some."
Yeah,
and I'll go in and erase a year, and then I'll
Oh my gosh!
I can't tell you how many times I've said, "Oh man, I had an email about that."
Yeah.
I can't remember that guy's name, blah, 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 and gone back and found an email from 5 years later.
Oh, no. Yeah. Your bad habits rubbed off on me. I keep every email now. That's not spam or not like a retail letter of like, hey, this new product's out. I read those and then delete them. Anyways, wrapping up his question real quick. And James, correct me if I'm wrong from over there. You have to shout for your mic. But Todd, you probably can answer me. If he uses a separate kind of yeast on top of the residue of the other yeast, My thinking is, you're going to get flavors you don't want.
I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do that, right?
No.
That's my,
I would clean it out real good, save the yeast, clean it out real good, and then pitch the yeast just like you would if you had bought yeast.
That's what I thought too, but I didn't know. Sometimes I feel really confident in my answers, and then I get an email or y'all correct me on the show, and you're like, Josh, you're an idiot. Here's why. So I wanted to say that before I made an idiot of myself. But I cannot, you're not going to get what you expect if you're blending yeast. During fermentation, like, because yeast
people do it, but you want to do a lot of research, and have a profile in place. You know how it's going to be.
Right, and so if you're gonna do it, like you said, it needs to be more planned than just, hey, there might be some yeast residue on there, and that's why with sanitizing. I remember when we had Jonathan Etley from National Chemicals on, which he's not with them anymore.
No,
but I still use their iodophor all the time. That was his big talking point about the iodophor, is that it kills residual yeast. It makes sure all the stuff you don't want from your last batch is gone now for your new batch.
Right,
like that was, to me, that was what the goal was with the new batches, to make sure you got a clean slate and you're getting exactly what you want. But again, in the context of I'm doing the same kind of style with the same strain, then go for it.
Try it out and see. I mean, if it works for you, then that's the right way to do it. We've always
need that on a poster, man, because that is like our answer ultimately. And that's how it should be with brewing. If it works for you. That's what you should be doing.
We would never argue with somebody that had produced results.
Correct.
So that's why brewing's so cool.
Yep.
And I think that those old world views and all those opinions have kind of gone away. I haven't seen much of that in the last few years.
I think that's true just because look what craft beer scene is producing.
Yeah.
That would never hold up in the Reinheitsgebot era.
But I would say a lot of great beer innovations have been from experimenting and mistakes.
And mistakes, yes.
So I know, I don't know about you guys, but I learn a hell of a lot more screwing up than I ever do.
If the new summer beer trend in 2027 is the Kolschweizen, y'all know where it started. Y'all know.
This is like a sweet tea, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
I forgot to swap the camera. I did at one point when you were holding it up there. That wort is super clear.
Crystal clear.
I'm so glad those false bottoms are working out. Beyond expectation. But anyway, enough about the Broad Tog. Go to broadtog.com. No, that's a different question. Anyway, Travis, thank you so much for submitting your question. Guys, let's finish this brew day.
Yep, let's do it. Let's get boiling.
Let's go back to the barn later.
Throw some hops in there.
Let's blend some beers tonight.
And
then, you know what's going to be funny? Because this episode doesn't publish till tomorrow. We're going to be blending beers the night before we publish the episode. So
yeah,
it'll be fun. It will be, people won't understand why we're doing it until they listen to this.
Yeah, tomorrow we will have already blended beers.
Yeah. By the time you're listening to this, we have already done it. And let me tell you, it was disgusting.
It was very good. I had some very good blended beers.
All right. Anyways,
in my future.
Future Todd had great beers. All right, guys. Thank y'all for your time. I appreciate it. We'll do this next week. And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsor, Imperial Yeast. You'll get a free pack of Imperial Yeast with your monthly recipe kits when you join our Trub Club at homebrewhappyhour.com/club or patreon.com/homebrewhappyhour. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.